Hello everyone, new topic for online gaming. This comes from Ben Lindy. He says, do you think there is a way to objectively score a game? A lot of the time it comes down to opinion, but for instance, Uncharted 4 is an almost unanimous praise. Homefront: The Revolution is an almost unanimous criticism. How much should an opinion matter in scoring a game? Ben Lindy, thank you so much for this topic. That is a really good one. I read that and I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome. We're doing this one. So let's jump into it right away. Ben, can you objectively score a game? Absolutely you can. I'm certainly a firm believer of that, and we'll get to that in a second, but I think the one thing to obviously acknowledge immediately is that, yes, reviews are just one person's opinion, and if you don't necessarily get that or understand that, then there's something seriously wrong with you. Reviews are just one person's opinion, and they don't necessarily dictate, something to be fact. We all kind of understand that, and that's kind of what breathes the culture of especially video games and more broadly just conversation as a whole. We're all entitled to our opinions. We all like to discuss, we all like to debate, and certainly in the games industry, game websites, comments, threads, articles, YouTube videos, people like to go back and forth about what they think is right and what they think is wrong. But when you're scoring a video game and when you're reviewing a video game, there are absolutely certain elements of a game that are objective, and it's one of those things where it's not really opinion based. There is certainly a lot of objectable things in a game where you can kind of separate that fine line and say, you know what, this is good, and that's just the way it is. It's good. And what I mean by that is, again, it's certain elements. Of course, there's a lot of other elements in a video game that are very subjective, and of course, this is very particular to video games and not just other mediums, because you look at something like books, movies, and there's those are very specific mediums that have a very specific way of being consumed, whereas video games have a lot of variables to it. It's an interactive experience. I don't have to explain what a video game is to you guys. You know that it's a very broad sort of idea to look at and approach, and with all the multiple genres and how games are made and all the different, again, variables that are in it, it's hard to approach it from a reviewing perspective. It's probably one of the hardest things to review compared to, say, all those other mediums. But there are certain objectable things. I mean, and that's the thing that I talk about multiple times in past videos. If you've been watching my videos for a while, then you kind of already know what I'm getting at. It goes into like one video I did a while ago where it was about games being overrated, and what I said more or less in that Ryan on Gaming topic was that sometimes games aren't necessarily overrated if enough people are saying that they really enjoy and love this game. Maybe it's not just that they're overrated. Maybe it's just that some people that say it's overrated can't necessarily separate their opinion from what is reality. I mean, the example I used in that video was like, I'm not really a Halo fan, but just because I don't like Halo doesn't mean I think it's a bad game. It's very clearly a good game to a large amount of people. Like, enough people like that game. It has enough critical acclaim. It's like probably a good game, and it's like, it's hard to say like, oh, that's fact, Halo's a good game. Of course it's how different people see it and view it, but that's just kind of the point I was getting at. Halo's a big game. I mean, obviously it's good to somebody out there, which of course the same argument can be made for, say, some random shit game that had terrible reviews and tons of people hate, but you say, oh, well, it could still be good to certain people. That's obviously the case, but what you're getting at, Ben, is like, oh, Uncharted 4 has unanimous praise. Probably a good game. Homefront: The Revolution, a lot of criticism. Probably because there are certain things within that game that a lot of people do have some polarizing, opposing opinions about. So, again, let's dial back a little bit. There are certain things in the game that absolutely are objective. Like, number one, the presentation of the game. The kind of the what do you call it? How polished the game is, more or less. I mean, that's something that is certainly objectable. Is the frame rate good? Is the resolution good? Is the texture detail good? Are the graphics just unbelievable? I mean, there's those kind of things you can look at and say, you know what, this is a polished video game. Something like, like, for example, like Call of Duty, nowadays Call of Duty gets lots of hate, and people fucking hate it and love to bitch about it and all that, ridiculous bullshit. But there's absolutely no denying that those games, when they come out, yeah, they have their, launch problems just like any other video game, but they're very polished. Like, most Call of Duty games come out very polished. They look good. They perform well. Like, that's like just something that you can't really argue. And it goes to see something that would be subjective is, say, like the storyline. A lot of people would definitely have varying opinions on the storyline depending on how it ends, or maybe the game has like dialogue options or something and branching varying paths, and that certainly is a certain part of the game that would be up for debate. Another thing that isn't necessarily up for debate is, say, certain gameplay mechanics. Yeah, again, it's like, it's the variable thing. Video games are so complex in the way that you approach them and look at them and consume them that it certainly brings up a lot of, you know, discussion of like, oh, this is totally subjective. But like, there are certain gameplay mechanics that absolutely you can make the case like, this is just better. It's just better. It works better. Usually you need like a previous game or something to kind of contrast it, for example, compare it to kind of say like, well, this is why this mechanic is clearly a, you know, more refined experience and certainly better for the end player or something. That's just kind of what it all falls into. I mean, there's certainly subjective things to look at. There's with video games, there are subjective things, but there are absolutely a number of objective things you can look at when reviewing a video game. This is coming from someone that has reviewed, I believe, like over 100 games on YouTube now at this point. Granted, I don't review games that often anymore, but as someone that has read thousands of reviews and has personally tried to review upwards to 100 games, again, I don't really remember offhand, that's how I see it. And, you know, it's just like kind of the way it is. I mean, like, that's what I'm saying back to that Ryan on Gaming topic about overrated games. Like, if a lot of people are saying like a game is good, there's probably some truth to that. That's the whole point of like reviews as a whole, because when you see Uncharted 4 get unanimous praise, you know, that's different people. There's not some agenda. There's not some big, you know, underground like club or something trying to tell consumers that the game is good or whatnot. Like, enough different people that don't even know each other are saying it's good, it's probably a good game. If enough people are playing Homefront: The Revolution and saying, oh, I don't like this, oh, I like this, I think this works, I think this doesn't work, that's kind of a game where it's certainly up for debate and up for discussion. And that kind of what it all falls into, which is the great culture of video games and playing games and being on the internet and talking and having even remotely small interest in video games is the conversation. Ben, thank you for that one. I really enjoyed that one. I feel like I could have went on for a long time with that one, but of course we can't make these videos too long, because the more important thing and the most important thing about this is that I need more topics. That's right. Please keep submitting topics for On Gaming. I cannot urge that enough. Yes, I do still have a folder full of topics, but you know I need to keep them going. If it starts to get a little bit low, I get in like a little bit of a panic mode. And let's face it, I don't have the creativity to keep coming up with these things on my own. This show breathes and lives off your topics, so keep submitting them. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy.